So, Quickplay versus casual, a hot button topic in the TF2 community right now. Was Quickplay a blessing from the heavens, or was the Dark Ages never to be returned to? The answer is both more nuanced and somehow more straightforward than you expect. Let me go ahead and get my credentials and my biases out of the way. I began playing TF2 on May 28, 2014. That's over 10 years ago now. I made a Steam account just to play TF2, and I've spent over 3,500 hours in TF2. I've been around the block, so to speak. I enjoy both the vanilla game and community-created experiences. I've played just as many wacky maps as I have matches of regular old Dust Bowl. I've seen more than enough Minecraft trade servers for one lifetime, as well as my millionth game of 2 Fort. I'm not someone who thinks old is better, new is worse, or new is better, old is worse. Like I said, there's nuance. Sometimes, yeah, old things, no matter how much nostalgia we have for them, can suck. They really can. I don't think there's many people out there distraught that they can't go and buy Heinz Easy Squirt anymore, no matter how much artificial food coloring they ingested as a kid. And likewise, sometimes new things aren't so great. Maybe bad even. And shitification is a real phenomenon plaguing many major industries, especially video games and tech, and people are right to be upset about it. But also, people wearing those rose-tinted glasses is a real issue in this day and age, and it's important to stay vigilant when people talk about returning to the good old days. Looking back at the past must be done through a critical lens to separate the wheat from the chaff. What is a valid critique of the modern age, and what is simply human yearning for a time now past? Now, with all that in mind, let's talk about Quickplay. During my time in the Badlands and gravel pits of TF2, I got to experience Quickplay at its peak, before the introduction of the casual mode that replaced it. There's a lot of rumors, myths, and even outright lies about Quickplay and what it was that I really want to dispel, as someone who was there, in the trenches. As I mentioned previously, my hire date is May 28th, 2014. This is about 2 years before Meet Your Match would drop and ultimately change the way vanilla TF2 was played. And believe me, 2 years was more than enough to get a feeling for the Quickplay system, especially to my squishy preteen brain, absorbing information, like a sponge. I learned the ropes of TF2 through Quickplay. I ventured forth into the unknown thanks to this system.
But Skitch, Quickplay only sent you to shitty community servers. How did you learn to play?
This is the first myth I want to dispel. By 2014, Quickplay did not send players to servers with ads or plugins. Yes, I know we've all seen the Star video where he voices his grievances with the TF2 servers at the time, and he calls out Quickplay as being broken and unhelpful. But that video was posted a year before Valve made many changes to Quickplay that made it faster, added the option to only be sent to vanilla Valve servers, that was toggled on by default, and further enforced the rule set that made community servers eligible for Quickplay. That's right, Valve had a whole set of rules that kept shitty servers from appearing in the Quickplay search, even if you enabled the setting to let it send you to community servers. And they made these rules stricter as the years went on to continue to ensure people weren't getting sent to shitty servers. They also disabled HTML message of the days, the feature that servers were using to spam ads into players' faces. This setting is not only off by default, but they made it so servers connected to via Quickplay just wouldn't display the message of the day if it was an HTML message. I must admit it does confuse me, and even kind of frightens me, just how commonplace this bit of misinformation is. Like, the TF2 wiki has every single patch to TF2 documented. You can go to the Quickplay articles and read the change logs if you don't believe me. In my 2 years using Quickplay, I never, and I mean never, experienced Quickplay taking too long to put me into a game, or sending me to a server that was almost empty or had undesirable mods, plugins, or ads. Even when I turned the setting on to send me to community servers, I never had a bad experience like many of the folks against Quickplay would have you to believe. This argument against Quickplay claiming that it always sent people to shitty servers is wholly false and was a complete non-issue by early 2014. It always just worked, just 2 clicks and I was having fun in a match. The next myth I'd like to tackle is the idea that casual works fine, and to address that, I want to tackle another topic in regards to game balance, probably one of the biggest reasons people are seeking a return to the Quickplay system. Casual mode works by attempting to match players together based on a hidden matchmaking rating stat, otherwise known as MMR. Remember, casual came with the Meet Your Match update, Valve's big push to turn TF2 into an esport. The problem with using MMR in TF2 is that matches are typically random clusterfucks of 24 individuals doing their own thing. That is not ideal for a system that's trying to place players into neatly defined boxes of skill. When I play TF2, I typically never do the same thing 2 matches in a row. I might try my heart out as scout for one match, maybe chill as huntsman sniper the next, maybe I'll decide to fuck around as an A-post heavy for the next 30 minutes before deciding I want to play flog pyro for the next round. I really don't think I'm alone in this. If TF2 funny moments compilations, or even just old school YouTubers like Germa or Star or anything to go by, this is how people typically play TF2. And how in the ever-loving fuck is a matchmaking system supposed to sort this shit out? For every single game of casual mode, the matchmaker is supposed to find 24 people that might be doing whatever the hell they feel like doing at that moment and balance them evenly. How does that work? The answer is it doesn't. This is how you get matches where 4 players on one team are on godlike kill streaks, dominating the scoreboard, while the rest of the team is sitting in spawn picking their noses. And the other team is trying their hardest to push into the enemy and just can't do it because their top scoring player has 12 hours in the game and half the team has either disconnected or is stuck in a loading screen but still taking up a player slot on their team for whatever reason. How is this balanced? I won't lie, matches that play like this did happen in Quickplay, but I promise you, I swear on the good man Gaben himself, this was a rarity, not the norm. In casual, this is almost every game, every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, since 2016. Quickplay didn't have this issue because the game wasn't trying to keep track of a player's skill via MMR and match them accordingly. The matches themselves would sort that out. Most Quickplay servers would run on a map timer of 45 minutes, and in those 45 minutes you could play as many rounds of that map as you wanted. If a round was a roll, the game was unbalanced and players just weren't having fun, a vote for a team scramble could be called. If one team had too many wins too fast, then the server would auto-scramble the teams. On top of that, if players on one team started leaving, then players could either choose to switch teams themselves or auto-bounce would kick in. And Quickplay's auto-bounce was a lot more fair than casual's currently is. I don't know exactly how either version of auto-bounce works internally, but some of the major differences are that Quickplay's auto-bounce won't bounce people if there's less than a minute left on the round timer, whereas casual will gladly balance you to the losing team with 2 seconds left on the match. We've all been there. Quickplay's auto-balance also only picked dead players to balance, instead of just swapping people who are alive in the middle of something. This was a lot more fair, I feel, because players weren't just being plucked in the middle of team fights to suddenly fight the team that they were just on. This is also on top of the fact that auto-balance rarely ever kicks in when it should in casual, and instead lets the team stay unbalanced because it would rather try to find new players instead. This means that those empty player slots stay open longer, only further intensifying an already unbalanced game. One might wonder how Quickplay's balance could possibly be so good without the use of a matchmaker or MMR rank, and you wouldn't be amiss to assume it'd just be chaos without MMR. But let me give you an anecdote on how Quickplay worked. Watch this video of this messy box of nails. As it gets shaken, all the nails slowly fall into neat rows. This is how Quickplay's balancing worked. From chaos came order, given enough time. That's why the longer map timers and systems like Team Scramble and the ability to choose your team were so important for game balance. The match balance would settle into place itself on a server-to-server basis instead of relying on MMR.
Players use the server browser anyways. Nobody used Quickplay.
This one is just an outright lie. At the very top of the main menu, the first button you'd see when you opened the game was one that said Start Playing. Upon clicking this, the UI would prompt you to either play now or show servers. 2 clicks is all it took to get put in a game. It was the quickest and simplest way for new players to find a game and, well, start playing. I was a new player once, and like I said, I used solely Quickplay for almost the first 2 years or so of playing, before eventually finding community servers that I liked through Quickplay. And again, this is something that I highly doubt I'm alone in. Maybe day 1 veterans who had several community servers that they were regulars in didn't need to use Quickplay, but the newbies, the de facto most important players to a game like TF2, used Quickplay. And this brings me to another point that I feel is important and often overlooked in this discussion: the new player experience. We just had a big push to unmute free-to-plays to enhance the experience of new players, because making sure new players keep playing is vital to the longevity of TF2. Newbies are the lifeblood of this game, and casual is so much more hostile to new players than Quickplay ever was. As a new player during Quickplay, getting into a match was an easy and pain-free experience for me. Of course, I still had to learn the game, but Quickplay offered me the ability to do it on my own time, at my own pace, a liberty that casual does not grant. On top of being a new player during Quickplay, I got many friends and family into the game at the same time. They echoed the sentiment of TF2 being the most fun they had online, but after Meet Your Match, it has been much harder to get people to start playing and keep playing. Even friends I had gotten into TF2 before Meet Your Match have stopped playing, and friends from both before and after Meet Your Match have cited casual as feeling overwhelming, with both the balance of the matches themselves and the map selector presenting them with a myriad of options that forces them into choice paralysis. This choice paralysis typically leads to new players just selecting all the core game modes, which causes the matchmaker to actually take longer to find a match because now it needs to widen its search for a player that has no MMR rank. And this then compounds the issues of matches typically being stomps. So now new players feel like they either can't learn any of the mechanics without getting their shit kicked in, or they're put on the stomping team and basically just sit around wondering what they're supposed to be doing for the next 5 minutes until the match ends and they're sent back to square one. Casual, and matchmaking systems in general, actively harm the new player experience by placing them into these unbalanced matches as mentioned before, and giving them no way to balance the match themselves before throwing them back into another unbalanced match, all while teaching them nothing. Quickplay at the very least offered grounds for new players to slowly learn the ropes at their own pace, and let games go on long enough that they actually got a chance to experience a balanced match of TF2. There's a reason the game is bleeding players, and it's because casual mode is inherently hostile to new players, especially because of the fact that MMR ratings demand players always perform their best and constantly improve their skill. But TF2's inherently chaotic design and sometimes goofy moments that draws new players in the first place directly contradicts that. TF2 has been called the gateway into PC gaming, and we as a community should be working to bolster that title, and Quickplay offers the means to do just that. See, despite Quickplay having the option to only search for Valve servers on by default, and typically being what new players would stick to, the option to be sent to community servers still existed. And people did use it once Valve got stricter on what servers they allowed into the Quickplay search. New players would start the game playing on Valve servers via Quickplay, then use the advanced search features to graduate to community servers that would better fit their desired playstyles. But with the release of casual, community servers became hidden and harder to join, cut off from the rest of the game, and ultimately started seeing less traffic because people were less exposed to them via Quickplay.
Meet Your Match was almost 10 years ago. They're not changing it.
This exact same thing was said about the bots. The bots had been here so long, people just accepted them as a fact of life. TF2 has bots. In other news, the sky is blue. Hell, the fact that I need only refer to them as the bots, the definitive article, says everything about how ingrained they were into the community zeitgeist. But now they're gone. They've been gone for almost a year, and part of me still can't fully believe it. I never thought I'd see the day that TF2 post Jungle Inferno would be free from bots. Small swarms still pop up every now and again, but they get banned within the same day they appear. It's incredible. We dealt with the bots for 8 years. 8 years. I want you to let that sink in. For almost a decade, almost half the game's existence, it was overrun with cheating aimbots, and Valve did nothing. Nothing until a contractor working on the Steam Deck decided to do something about it. And it took them, 6 months to a year? At most, the time from Save TF2 to Fix TF2. Personally, I don't think casual mode is as ingrained into TF2's identity as the bots were. People will remember and should remember the bots and the effect they had for years to come. But if casual were to be reverted to Quickplay tomorrow, I bet it'd quickly just become a footnote in the game's long history. One of those little quirks about the game's past, like how people could use MVM robot weapons in normal gameplay for a bit, how TF2 almost had a TV show, or the Crate Depression. I've seen many people express the idea that Quickplay would be too hard to re-implement, that you can't just drag and drop the old code back into the game. What if I told you they don't have to? That the code for Quickplay is not only still within TF2, but is still actively being used by the game. For starters, we know this code was not removed when Meet Your Match launched. For 3 months after Meet Your Match, using the console command Open Quickplay Dialog would, open the Quickplay Dialog, the UI that was used to search for the servers. And it worked. It couldn't take you to Valve servers anymore due to ad hoc connections being removed, but it could take you to community servers that still met your search settings. Okay, so that proves that the code for Quickplay was still in TF2 after Meet Your Match. But what about today? It's been 8 years. Well, did you know that Man vs. Machine runs on Quickplay's code? It does. It's why Boot Camp can sometimes send you to community MVM servers to this day, so long as they're running vanilla maps, default server commands, and not using plugins. I've even experienced this myself many times since Meet Your Match. On top of that, when Valve was developing competitive mode, they used the MVM lobby system as a base. During the beta test for competitive, MVM players would sometimes be sent to comp lobbies, and matchmaking bans for competitive would actually ban you from queuing for MVM. These are fixed today, but it's proof that there's still quick play under the hood. But now comes the best part. Casual mode was built on competitive. Casual mode functioned identically to competitive on day 1, only with 24 players instead of 12. So that means casual is built on competitive, is built on MVM, is built on quick play. So in a long, convoluted, roundabout way, casual is quick play, just downgraded in every regard. The code for quick play is still in TF2 and it's still being used. It is the building block in which every other matchmaker and game coordinator in TF2 is built off of, and we have proof of this thanks to the release of the SDK. Along with the idea that quick play would be too hard to re-implement, I've seen many folks say that we should improve casual instead of going back to quick play. But that's not as simple a task as you'd think. It's actually more difficult than bringing back quick play. Now, let me explain. As I mentioned earlier, casual uses a matchmaker and MMR system. The entire point of a matchmaker and MMR is to attempt to balance the match before it ever starts. By trying to improve casual with features like ad hoc connections, team scramble, team select, map timers, etc., this completely undermines the job of the matchmaker. All these features allow players to balance matches themselves, and it breaks matchmaking. It's why VScript game modes like Versus Saxton Hale are always broken the first week they're added. Valve has to basically break the matchmaker just to get these non-standard maps to work in casual because they're not compatible with a matchmaker. The matchmaker doesn't want to put just a single player on one team and 23 players on the other. It wants a quote-unquote balanced 12v12 match. This is why VHS maps go on for 25 rounds and don't grant experience. Valve had to make a workaround to basically make the casual matchmaker poorly emulate vanilla server settings. These maps never break on community servers because community servers don't rely on a matchmaker, and neither did Quickplay. Honestly, with the uptick of VScript game modes being added to TF2, it might be in Valve's best interest to bring back Quickplay, just so they don't have to wrestle with the matchmaker every update. To make any improvements to casual, Valve would basically have to gut the matchmaker and then rebuild Quickplay from the ground up, a much more daunting task than just reintroducing Quickplay. And don't get me wrong here, I don't want TF2 to be entirely rolled back to its 2016 pre-meet your match state, as nice as that'd be. For all I care, Valve can reintroduce Quickplay's functionality and keep calling it casual mode. As long as the matchmaker gets gutted and we get team select, team scramble, ad hoc connections, Valve servers in the server browser, advanced search, and every other option Quickplay offered, I'm happy. TF2 would be a better game so long as all those options are brought back, regardless of if it's called casual or Quickplay. The idea that improving casual and bringing back Quickplay are two separate ideologies wholly opposed to each other is reductive and entirely missing the point of what both groups of players actually want. We want the same thing in the end, no matter what we want to call the movement. I personally like Bring Back Quickplay more because it feels more specific. Improve casual is vague about what's actually being asked for. Improve it how? Well, improve it with Quickplay's features. Then why not just ask to bring back Quickplay? It's the same thing in the end, and it's more specific about what's being requested. At the end of the day, it's the functionality and server rule sets of Quickplay that must return. Reintroducing Quickplay's functionality is not a monumental task that would require all hands on deck at Valve. The Steam Deck contractor can absolutely do it himself, and I'm certain it's a hell of a lot easier than whatever he did to get rid of the bots. I think the bigger question is whether or not Valve will let him. But I guess that's where we come in. One of the big things about Quickplay to me is that I cannot fathom why someone wouldn't want it. It's the TF2 that we all know and love, but more. You'd be able to find matches and maps you love quicker, play more of it in a single sitting without having to server hop or re-queue a dozen times, and it's more of the funny moments that we all cherish. Again, I am looking at this through a practical, critical lens, not rose-tinted glasses. Quickplay had everything that casual currently has, and more. Everything casual does, Quickplay did better. We would not lose anything by going back to the Quickplay system, but we would be gaining so much more, I guarantee. After the recent unmuting of free-to-plays, this needs to be the next major push from the community. After a decade of neglect, Valve has finally given us an inch and we should take a mile. During the creation of this video, several things have happened within the community regarding the push to re-implement Quickplay. Megascatterbomb has opened a poll asking people about their opinions, feelings, and thoughts in regards to casual mode and Quickplay. And a Discord server has been formed acting as a sort of hub for the Bring Back Quickplay movement. Here, they're planning to put together an open letter to Valve and a petition. Links to both of these will be in the description below. I know it may seem like a long shot getting Valve to revert casual to Quickplay, but look at what we've done as a community. Making our voices and disdain for Valve's neglect heard, we got them to let someone finally work on the game. When mappers asked Valve about adding more year-round maps to the game, we got VScript functionality and started getting maps in the summer updates. It took them a while, but when modders asked for some kind of official support for TF2 source mods, we eventually got the SDK, allowing TF2 mods on Steam. In only a few months, a petition a fraction the size of Fix TF2 got Valve to unmute free-to-plays after 5 years. When we work together to better our game, we can move mountains. Or at the very least, we can move a desk with wheels. So let's do this. Let's push for a return to Quickplay, a system that bolstered and upheld TF2's unique identity, a system that is welcoming and friendlier to all kinds of players, new and old. A system that can reignite the spark that nearly extinguished with Meet Your Match. Let's give TF2 what it deserves. Let's improve casual by bringing Quickplay back.